Okay. So, the previous session spoke about the differences that we are seeing between Silicon Valley, India. The session before that, Prashant spoke about how there's been an incredible pace of startup creation in India itself in the AI space. And we have NISA. And Sharath actually ran entity for a very long time, and then he decided to start up. So tell us about that startup, Kida, Sharath.
No, so I actually founded NetMagic, which entity acquired, and we run today India's largest data center company with more than 4 million square foot of data center space and 300 megawatts of IT load. When ChatGPT became viral, we used to run a compute cloud without GPUs, and we started seeing a lot of demand for GPUs. Unfortunately, entity didn't want to, invest in. They felt that the business was too risky. So I took permission and started NISA to set up an AI compute platform in India.
A round of applause for that. Never too late to start up. And NISA, I think, has already raised, what, $30 million?
No, $53 million.
53. Yeah. Wow. Short by, I think. So how's it been so far in terms of the business opportunities you see here, the demand that you see?
It's both exciting and challenging. We've already launched our compute platform. We've built our own orchestration platform. We've built our own. We've layered on top of it both ML ops and LLM ops platforms, and also built inference endpoints and for clients. In addition to that, we are also building, we are taking into account security for AI. So we built our own Aegis framework of products for security in AI. And also a separate track is on observability. We are seeing a very good adoption in multiple areas. One is on the research and education side, where compute clusters are being used. We're also seeing adoption from AI native startups and ISVs. We are seeing, we just recently got impaneled last week in the AI mission. And last but not the least, we are also seeing very good traction with enterprises. So particularly the banking and financial sector.
Great. Yeah. Sanket, this has been like a rebirth for you, the entire AI revolution. Literally from the brink, InVideo's come back. Someone told me InVideo is the largest customer for OpenAI in India. I don't know if that's true. Maybe you can.
I'm pretty sure that's true. It's not working.
You can borrow Soham.
Yeah, we have very large customers of OpenAI, Google, all of them at this point of time, yes.
And in terms of the growth, how do you see this happening? And are you also a little worried? Because image generation, video generation has gotten so good. Every week there are new models. So how do you sort of retain your edge?
Yeah, I think all businesses are built on very specific type of insights that matters to a particular segment of users. So what Sora does or what Google does, and we deeply engage with them, what we believe is they're building these tools for different set of people versus us. And there are many nuances when we change segments. Someone needs more control, someone doesn't. Someone has a lot of taste, someone doesn't. Someone wants something quick, someone wants something that saves them $200,000 of shooting. So there are many nuances. And when a particular type of technology emerges, there are different ways to do different things with that. And when we, and the track that we run on, we feel very confident that it's a different segment that we are going after versus an AI video creation. And we actually love it because I think a lot of people do think that OpenAI is going to come for something or Google's going to come for something. But that is the insight we have, that I don't think that's going to happen in this particular part. And then once you have conviction, because of multiple reasons, you just operate with like a particular zone of belief.
Right. And have you also benefited hugely from India's creator ecosystem? You were at the Waves Summit, I think, recently in Mumbai. So is that also something that's really helping you get that shot in the arm in India?
Look, I mean, if we look at our business, then it's unfortunate that India contributes only 5% to it, 4-5%. So do we get a lot of users? Yeah, we do get enough users. But the cogs in the AI market, what we need to do for that I think doesn't add up in the Indian market today. And I don't think that has anything to do with InVideo. I think that has to do with how much money we take home every month as Indians. And just the financial structure of this nation today. And that is how it's going to look like
Goes
for a
back
while.
to what Mitesh spoke about in terms of getting paying users.
Yeah, correct. Like you won't get paying users because of where AI is, the cogs are very high, and you will just not get enough paying users in this part of the world today.
Right. Soham, tell us about your own journey at Composio. Again, you know, whichever investor I've spoken to in the last 6 months, I asked them what's top of mind for you when it comes to AI startups. They all bring up Composio. What's special about Composio?
Yeah, I think we got really lucky with the timing of when we started. We're building the right thing at the right time in the kind of right ecosystem. I think a lot of what you speak about is mainly timing, right? Like, so talking about Composio, we started building coding agents to solve for, so Composio is essentially a simple way for developers to integrate a bunch of different applications with LLMs or like while they're building agents, right? We manage authentication, we manage a bunch of different things, and we reduce developers' time spent while building the application from like months to almost hours, right? We have a really good set of folks out there using us. We have more than 50,000 plus developers using us across the globe. And the thing is, it's just because we kind of understood the problem a bit early. We realized that very quickly that, hey, this is something that everyone is going to go through. We were building coding agents back in 2023 when LLMs are not even good enough to sort of, build like basic reliable agents out there. And that kind of helped us, right? Because when you realize the problem early, you really have some unique insights around it, and you match it with the sort of industry also moving. You are able to come up with like unique solutions at each different sort of point in time when the industry is maturing, so that you are always the perfect solution out there for anyone out building sort of or solving the same problem.
Right. Manu, you work a lot on the data set collection aspect of AI. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities that you see there in India?
Perfect. Super happy to be here. I've been on the stage a couple of times, and every time I've been sick. So I don't know what's on common there, but I'm having my chai. So if I'm slower than usual, that's the reason. But I think, look, at Karya, what we have done is we have trained a workforce of 100,000 plus people to do all of these complex jobs that AI models need to scale. I think at the core of Karya is a fundamental belief that the communities we work with are not just excellent beneficiaries of AI, of course they are. They're also excellent builders of state-of-the-art models. They're excellent evaluators of the model. So the opportunity to me is for us to truly build inclusive AI is to employ the communities we want to include, right? So can we build AI models that truly represent every single person that we want to be using these technologies? I think Dr. Kalika Bali, who's going to be on stage right after this, has done such phenomenal work in thinking about gender intentional AI, thinking about AI that represents all of us. And I think at Karya, we have a responsibility and an opportunity to actually include communities that have been historically kept away from technology and center them in the AI revolution. And doing that in collaboration with our clients. We work, of course, closely with the government of India. We work closely with Google, with Microsoft, all of these companies, and thinking deeply about how can we deliver business outcomes in uniquely Indian contexts by employing Indians. And then you create this magical win-win situation where our communities can get earning and learning opportunities, but the models perform well in Indian context, to Indian dialects, to Indian accents, to Indian contexts, to different use cases. And I think that allows this magical combination to happen, and we're very excited about that.
Right. Sharad, as someone who's working at the convergence of AI, cloud, and edge computing, what sort of foundational infra do you think India still needs to support scalable AI innovation?
So I'll talk about scalable and sustainable. So first of all, the data centers itself, or the high density data centers, because these are very power consuming chips.
Yeah. Water guzzling, power
Yeah,
guzzling.
so building high density data centers. These most data centers today don't have a ready-made liquid cooling capability, And at NTT, we built some of the liquid cooling and liquid immersion cooling facilities. Next is, of course, the compute. But most important, right, is the data sets, which he's doing. I think Bharat Gen just released a whole bunch of
AI
data
for
sets.
Bharat,
AI for Bharat also, and Bharat Gen.
Bharat Jain. I think Ganesh
also,
is in the room.
yeah,
Professor
so he
Ganesh.
also released a whole bunch of data sets last week. The way I look at it is the soil is, there's somebody gave me this analogy that you take the data as the soil.
Okay.
If you take the agricultural analogy, the compute is the irrigation and the models is the crop, right? So data sets are most important. If you don't have data, if you don't have good quality data that's accessible, then you don't have, you can't train on good data. And but from an infrastructure perspective, compute and the underlying data centers that will house the compute is very important.
Right. Sanket, in terms of InVideo's own ambitions going forward, have you considered moving abroad? Are you going to be based in India?
Yeah, no, I get that a lot. So here's how I look at the world, okay? That I think there are no Indians, Americans, there are special people. And those special people might not be very large number in India in comparison and very high in the US for a number of reasons. Those people really, really care. They care, they are not scared, they don't want to copy, they have their own opinion, they have their own take. I think that we try to breed that in our culture, and if we do that, I don't know what should I go to the US and do and what should I learn. I can just do all those things from here. Everything's available on YouTube if you really are willing to learn. And that, like all the papers of AI are available on the internet. Like everything is right there. It is the intent, and I don't know if my intent changes when I change the country. It's going to remain the same. And I think and I actually think even in the world of AI, I don't think it's very different. It is simple, right? Like it's giving a delta value to someone and making sure that that someone, you are not competing with a lot of people to serve that person. All your metrics are good. You are keeping on adding value to that person or going to the next adjacent person. And all the technologies available, browser, internet, and now AI. And you have to create more value and make sure that you hit the right degrees of delta. And when you hit right degrees of delta, the TAM expands. And it will work. And I think that was not different in any other world. There are like very fundamental things to do. And I think that I'm just fine here.
You're fine here. We are happy to hear that. So, do you have a different take considering you operate more in the B2B enterprise space?
Yeah, I think I would disagree, right?
Because of the customers different.
Exactly. So I was going to come
Yeah.
there.
It's in my context.
That's what I said, B2C.
Yeah. So the thing is, when you look at B2B customers, right, and most of our early startups, which were customers, were from SF, right? And literally, I could point out a square mile in SF, and 90% of our early customers were literally from that square mile. And so for me, the geography actually makes a big difference because I can get very early feedback, very quick iteration cycle, go to their office, work with them, figure out exactly how my customers behave, and basically make sure that at the end of the day, they are super happy with the product. And so that's the delta in the sort of opinion.
Right. And follow up for you, Soham. So, there are also a lot of native tooling platforms taking off. Would that reduce the demand for middleware platforms? How do you see this?
So the idea is middleware is always going to get killed, right? Everyone's trying to kill you. People at the top are trying to kill you. People at the bottom are trying to kill you. Foundation models are getting into agentic frameworks and they're killing them, right? Applications are moving downstream. They're trying to kill you. So it's a battle of survival, right? The good thing is though, if you do survive, the prize is really big, right? So to answer your question very succinctly, I think yes, a lot of people are creating basically, let's say, it's hard for us to survive, but as we develop more and more, as we create bigger and bigger mode, as we create bigger and bigger value prop, if I do survive, the prize is equally bigger.
Got it. Manu, in terms of the quality of data itself, we're going to have Sarvam is already there, 3 more foundational models that the government has picked, 3 more startups that the government has picked to build foundational models, right? Socket, Gun, and Yanni. And one of their main focus is India-specific, language-specific data sets. What impact will that have in terms of improving the quality of data sets? The government also has AI Kosh, to which they've been adding a lot of data sets. So how is all this going to help?
Look, I think it's fantastic, right? I mean, we're very
As
lucky
Sharad
to...
said, that's the soil.
Yes. No, I think I oftentimes feel like doing AI work in India today feels like being in the Renaissance. Like there is just so much good work happening. Like I can spend the next 14 minutes just telling you good startups doing good AI work in India. And that's just how much good work there is happening, right? There is Argo from Adalat in the audience, there's Rocket Learning, there is Gramhal. There's just such incredible work happening in the ecosystem. It's phenomenal, right? And to add to that, the support that the government has given, we're part of the Socket collaboration, so we're especially excited about being the data layer for Socket. I think for us, the data itself is obviously critical, and I think what the Karya experience teaches us is that it is obviously not trivial, but not impossible to build really high quality data sets, right? We pride ourselves on paying our workers a decent wage, and we actually believe the wages we give our workers are the reason why the data sets that we get from our communities. Of course, our workers work in their homes, on their Android phones, and they're collecting all of these data sets across image, speech, video, text. They're doing evaluations, they're fine-tuning models in their languages, in English, doing all of these complex tasks. And even the pre-validation accuracies we get are some of the best in the world. We've always hypothesized, I mean, we've been now doing Karya for over 8 years. We were started in 2017 at Microsoft Research, just down the street here. And even in 2017, this was a question that my co-founders and I had, which was, why is the data that we're getting so good? And I think our hypothesis has always been in India, language and culture are uniquely intersecting, right? So when we tell someone that you're teaching an AI model how to speak Tamil, and you're getting these wages for it, it isn't just meaningful wages for that few hours, it's also the fact that I'm preserving my language and my culture. And I think there is a lot of beauty in that, in how we intersect with language and culture. Which I think is obviously worth preserving and very exciting. I also think that as we start seeing massive investments coming into the data layer, so there's work from AI Kosh and Mr. Nag, who's doing a phenomenal job there. There's work from Gates Foundation in open sourcing data sets. They work with IISc. There's work from Google on Project Vani. We work across all of these efforts, so our hands are full, and it's quite an exciting thing that all of these data sets are going to get open sourced, which means all the startups in the room can actually build their models on it.
Right. Sharad, do you think a lot about the second order impact of AI in India? Because for a long time, I mean, even now, the IT services industry is the largest job creator in the private sector. Startups have created jobs, but not at the same pace as IT. Then we had a GCC wave. And many of these jobs are getting automated today. What will that mean for lakhs of engineering graduates who pass out from India every year? How do you see that? I mean, this is, of course, is going to be a global problem, but even so for India.
I think it has, upskilling is absolutely needed because it's a cliche that,
but,
you won't lose.
Upskilling in what? Because even learning coding now is not going to save you.
No, but how to, for example, how to use various AI tools, right, to make your job easier. But, and for the engineers, for the software engineers, as long as you can architect using what is possible, right, you won't lose. As the cliche statement is that you won't lose your job to AI, you'll lose your job to someone who uses AI more efficiently, right? So I personally feel that, yes, IT companies are concerned. I've met some of the the CEOs of the IT companies, and while they are at the forefront of using AI themselves, but they are concerned on the low-level workers that they have, that they've deployed in hundreds of thousands of jobs, because all those will get automated. And but the good news is that they are conscious of this. It's already started happening. Klarna had announced how they would get rid of all their call center, and the stocks of all the call center and BPO companies came down crashing. So, so it is a genuine problem, but I think the stakeholders are aware of what the problem is and are taking steps to, so I think upskilling in various forms. It could be, for the low level, it would be how to do prompt engineering better, how to do, how to use AI better for the engineers, how to use these tools like Cursor and other better, and things like that. Yeah.
I think that's also one of the pillars of the India AI mission, skilling. But, I was talking to this is for both of you, I was talking to the founder of Perplexity recently, Arvind, and he said, the pace of change is so huge that all I do is I wake up, I work, I sleep, I wake up, work, and I'm basically working all the time because I can't afford to take a break. If I'm away for some time, then, everything changes and I can't relate to it anymore. Are you guys getting enough sleep?
No, like
No.
I slept 3 hours yesterday.
3 hours?
Yeah, that's it.
I think your investors should be concerned. You should get more sleep soon.
I think it's fine. Like it's also not the exhaustion; it's more excitement that keeps you awake.
The adrenaline that keeps you going.
Yeah. So
3 hours
yeah, you,
for the last, ever since you started composing.
no, it's like yesterday. When you're working in multiple geographies, you go through these phases where
And time zones.
and time zones. Yeah, you have these issues.
Sanket?
I have a 1-month-old at home.
Okay, so anyway you will
so
get...
anyway, yeah, I think it's
I sleep 8 hours a day. Yesterday, because I watched the RCB final, and I had to take an early morning flight to come to Bangalore, I slept less. But otherwise, 8 hours a day, minimum.
Manu?
I should not comment. But actually, want to go back to your question on the jobs piece, which I think is very interesting. My co-founder, Safia, is in the room. She is our Chief Impact Officer and runs something called the Karya Institute, where this is exactly the question we are asking. The latest IMF reporting that we have estimates that 12% of India's labor force will face displacement effects due to AI. That's a little over 60 million people, and that is definitely
Which
a
is
scary
huge.
number. That report also came out before deep research. And we are seeing evidence in our company where we were supposed to hire someone and we didn't because deep research did a pretty decent job. And I changed the role of what we were, who we wanted for this. I think we need to answer 3 questions critically. First is, what are the jobs of the future? Which is to your point, what do we upskill people in? And then we need to figure out a just transition for these 60 million or more or less people.
Like a
I think-
universal basic income.
Exactly. And I think we need to figure out what that transition is. I think countries like India, Kenya, Vietnam, Philippines that built one part of the middle class through the BPO revolution are uniquely vulnerable, in my opinion. And I think we need to figure out what these new opportunities are. Second is then skilling, right? I think it's not enough for anyone to say, these are the jobs of the future, figure it out. I think we need to do the market linkages. And then the final thing, of course, is the labor piece of it. How much should these jobs pay? What are life pathways in these new jobs? And I think we need to come together. And I think, again, the India AI mission is doing a phenomenal job in convening a lot of these people to come together to just think about the future of work, especially in the Indian context.
Right. Yeah, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, if I could, again, I come from a very different generation, right? And so some of the point of views would be very different. But I would really ask, right? So the way I think about humans is we have 2 things we can do. One thing is we can do physical stuff, we can do intelligence, like some intelligence stuff. I think both of them are getting commoditized. And so my obvious question is of course you can search for jobs of future and stuff like that, but why do we need jobs? Okay, if I need to grow food and if I have robots doing that, why the fuck do I need to do anything, right? If I have intelligence out there and that's doing foundational research, why do, I think we should be also somewhat prepared for that potential future. I'm not saying 5 years down the line, but I'm saying 20 years down the line, wherein maybe just the traditional thinking behind you need a job and the job is important because the economy works that way kind of shifts, right? And just India produces enough stuff where people are happy and the UBI mechanism kicks in, right? I think that is not.
Sounds like a very utopian world.
But that's the AI I'm working towards, right? Which is that's my idea of AI succeeding, which is just the utopian future, right?
Yeah, I think, look, I'll quickly respond to that. There's a lovely researcher, Eric Brynjolfsson, at the Stanford HAI Center, who says that if ancient Greeks, all the work that ancient Greeks were doing got automated, we would have gotten to vaccines sooner, right? And that is the optimistic take of AI automating a lot of the menial tasks that we have to do. Labor markets are flexible. There is enough. I mean, you have Asimoglu writing multiple papers talking about, look, in 10 years it'll all be okay, and that is fair. I think the question is, in that 10 years of transition, what happens to people for whom there is no other option and they rely on jobs for day-to-day livelihoods? I think that is something we will have to figure out. Yeah.
Totally agree. Yep.
Sorry, you want to add to that, Sanket?
No, the only thing I think about is video creation.
Very focused.
I also named my kid Arjun.
Okay. Okay.
Wait, really?
Yeah. I just relate to the philosophy. And it's also like the name passed everywhere, so.
Great. The other trend that we're observing is, companies are not only getting created at a breakneck pace, but you need very few people. I think there have been examples in the Valley of 2-member teams, 10-member teams, building out a billion-dollar company. So again, is there constant pressure, I don't know, a self-inflicted pressure that, I have to have a lean company? How do you go about it?
Actually, no, right? Because if anyone went out to hire people, then I think, and you really, really want high quality talent, it's extremely difficult to hire them. And when you hire more people, there is a communication overhead. There is a communication tax, and then there is a context tax. So the fastest way anyone can work in the world is that just by themselves, because all the context is with you and you don't pay any taxes.
Yeah.
As you keep adding people, you pay the tax, and then you go slower. When you go slower, there will always be few people who will sneak in, which leads to bureaucracy, which leads to not taking bold things. Because if you end up in that, then enough people will not do bold things, which largely
Which sort of
inflicts
kills
culturally.
momentum, yeah.
It's also cultural, right? So in small teams, you could do something, you could be politically incorrect, you could have very, very tight bonds, much lesser rules, which actually helps with velocity. And it's not, I don't think it's inflicting. We will go out and hire every time we need to, but it actually helps because I never have to compromise hiring anymore in many forms because I can still move forward.
Right. So,
Yeah, I think it's the same thing, right? Which is you kind of build company in an entirely different way. So, to give an example, right? If I was planning to build a 5,000 people company, there are certain things I definitely can't do that I can do in a 50 people company. I can go to dinner with every single person in my team every day of the month, and I make sure that I know them equally well on a personal level. If I'm building a 100 people company also, it starts becoming harder, right? I think it gives you infinite leverage that you miss out on as soon as you start growing your team. So it's a very, very sort of, let's just say, it's a very high agency thing. It adds a lot of value to you and your team. And it's an amazing thing to, sort of be born into as a company, wherein you can just have very small teams and very powerful teams.
I also say inside the office, there's a running joke where we say that उस पे ही काम करो जिस पे आलू डालोगे तो सोना निकलेगा. चलो चिप्स के लिए कभी काम कर लेना, उसके नीचे काम ही नहीं करना है हमको, right? वो करना ही नहीं है, we'll let it burn, and we are actually very rigorous while picking to do something because we are let's be sure आलू डालेंगे सोना निकलेगा, नहीं तो नहीं करते. I would rather go home, sleep, or think about a problem till I find enough leverage जहाँ पे आलू डालोगे तो सोना निकलेगा.
this can be your company mission. Aloo daloge sona niklega. But we have 1 minute, so I'm just going to take closing comments. Question for all of you. What keeps you awake at night, apart from RCB matches?
What keeps me awake? I think the biggest challenges we face are in terms of deep talent. So just as we want to build, do innovation and build IP in India, just getting that top talent is tough. While India has a lot of talent, everybody's talked about how big our talent pool is. But getting that deep talent is not is a challenge.
And also having to compete with others to pay
keep-
top
so-
dollar and hire
Yeah,
them.
top dollar and retention also of top
Right.
talent. Yeah.
Got-
I think one thing that's been keeping up more recently is the productivity gap, right? AI, I have a very English-speaking, computer-centric workspace. So AI is amazing for me. I would argue I'm at least 30% more productive than I was 2 years ago on my core day-to-day. That isn't the case for most of the people we work with. So I think how can we build AI applications that not only solve information asymmetry, which is what the sector is doing incredibly, so access to healthcare, education, career services, legal, all of that stuff, but how can I actually make sure that the people we work with become more productive so they can do more work in less time and then move on to do other things so that we don't have a situation where AI just makes all of our lives amazing. And then, 30 years down the line, we're having another conversation on how do we bridge the AI divide. I think we don't have good answers to figure out that productivity gap yet.
Right. So, or Sanket?
I think that insights are deteriorating very, very fast in business. And finding insights that work, that also like hits all the parameters you need to hit, is getting tougher. They are disappearing faster, and it's a pain in the ass to keep finding them. And it really
Why would you say insights in business are deteriorating?
because the world's moving so fast.
So what was true to yesterday is
Can
not
happen,
necessary.
can change very, very fast. And you have to keep like evolving that. And for that, like you can't just keep doing whatever. You need very, very sharp, detailed things with enough TAM that takes you from a place to another place and then another place. And to find them,
And to be flexible enough to accept that something is not working and move on.
yeah, I mean, sure. I think like eventually, I think everyone accepts it. It's just a matter of time when a startup has to accept it, and mostly people do. But the steps after that are typically just like time consuming. You need a little bit of luck, and you need to know that you can be more wrong than right, but the day you are right, it will work out. But you will have to have the constant energy to keep chasing them.
Soham?
Sure. Like for us, like we do a lot of frontier stuff, right? So for us, it's like looking at everyday just magic happening and just being high on AI, right? Like I think that keeps me awake, like the adrenaline
High on
of yeah, looking at oh wow, this is insane, this is so cool. Yeah, I think like when, for example, VO3 came, I didn't sleep for 2 days. I was just all night like making videos.
Trying out different
yeah,
versions.
yeah, yeah. Like that was like amazing. What the fuck is happening, right? Like that keeps me awake.
Great. On that note, thank you all very much and a big round of applause for these founders.